Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 18, episode 1-8 of the Amateur Hour podcast. We got John Opheim here, and we got a special guest on this week, Nick Dilts. Before we jump into the podcast episode this week, we'll progress as normal, but first, we have to say our thoughts and prayers are with Damar Hamlin and his family. Obviously, it's Tuesday now. We were all watching the game on Monday night. It was a huge stage, a huge matchup, and very early in the game, we saw the hit that happened to Damar Hamlin, and he collapsed to the ground. They're performing CPR on him on the field, and ultimately took him on an ambulance away to University of Cincinnati Hospital, the only level 1 trauma center in Ohio. So luckily that was close by the stadium, and he's currently intubated and in critical condition. So just want to start out by saying we acknowledge him and his family, send our thoughts and prayers. Hope he will do okay and recover fully from whatever happened on the field that day. And our thoughts are also with the Bengals and the Bills organization. So just want to put that out there. We're going to move on now. We're going to, talk like a normal episode and cover all the normal topics, but we just wanted to throw that out there. And instead of starting with one of John's stupid ass songs. So, now welcome on to episode 18. Nick, it's good to have you. Long overdue. You belong on this podcast a couple weeks ago, but we'll get you on late here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm happy to join, and that's right. I did give John a little shit about it this last weekend, but hey, better late than never, as some would say.
Better late than never. Yeah. Tell the people a little bit about yourself and maybe the podcast that you're a co-host of.
Yeah. I grew up in Rosendale. I went to high school with John. I've known him. Him and I have been really good friends since we were little kids. I guess I've been a huge football sports fan in general my whole life. And then this year I started a Dynasty Fantasy Football League. And after I kind of mentioned in my first episode of the podcast that listening to you guys do your podcast kind of lit a fire under my ass, because that's been something that I wanted to do I've always wanted to do as well. So you guys did a really great job in that first episode, and I really enjoyed listening. So I was like, hey, let's do one on it. I wasn't trying to steal anybody's thunder, but I was like, hey, why not try to do a podcast about our Dynasty League? So I think we're 16 episodes strong. We're doing 17 tomorrow night. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been a blast. Learned a lot, and it's been fun.
Surprisingly easy to do, wouldn't you say? Like in this day and age.
Yeah, I was a little nervous the first few episodes, but then I feel like I kind of got the ball rolling. So,
well, John, of course, it's easy for John. He logs into a 1 hour meeting once a week, and that's the extent of what he does. So yeah, it's really easy for John. Holy shit, I can't believe how easy it is.
Yeah, it's so easy, boy. But no. David, I think I could figure it out. How about next year? I'll do all the recordings myself.
Yeah, that sounds like a good trade. Every other year we'll switch off.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair.
John, actually, you do a really good job with your YouTube channel. So I think you could provide an extra spark to our show with maybe some of those graphics and editing that you do such a good job on with your Cypher podcast.
Yeah, I also wanted to say one of my coworkers and Carla have been showing me TikToks of fantasy football, and the bar is very low. So I'm thinking that's a market or fantasy football, just football in general. There is really not much on there. It's like middle school kids talking about it, and I don't think I'm much smarter than a middle school kid, but maybe just a little bit, just enough to get over that hump. But yeah, so that might be something we can look into.
See, I've said that for like a year and a half about my other podcast called Peaked in College. I say that I'm going to clip, some funny parts and put it on TikTok or Instagram Reels, but I never really get around to it. It's kind of it's a lot of work, and so. But if you're inspired and you're motivated to do it,
yeah. There were these two fools that did a breakfast draft, so they drafted the best 5 breakfast items and got like 1.5 million views. And then I'm like, I asked her, do they have a show? Is this a highlight from the clip? And she's like, no, they just put up like minute episodes. That's all they do. So seems like, but I'm sure the editing side takes time. You know what I mean?
Maybe we can do little short clips with our big ballers of the week and our locks of the week.
Yeah, I agree with the whole TikTok thing. I think that'd be really, really huge. And I actually started posting Obi's picks on TikTok, and there's a couple of them for the 30 followers that I have. There's a couple of videos that had close to 800 views. So it's like, well, that's kind of
Damn.
cool. Yeah.
I think that's a great one too, because people love animals. So even like
Yep.
someone who doesn't care about football but likes dogs would watch that video and not scroll past it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's smart, Nick. I'll have to tell Carlos. You have a TikTok channel. What is the name of the TikTok channel?
Straight to the heart, right? No, it's just mine, and I know that I should probably just create our own for the podcast. So, but still,
Is it called Nick Dilts? Is that the name of the TikTok?
I
Nick
think
Dilts,
so. Yeah.
He does
And
not
then
want
there's a
people
couple-
following his TikTok.
No, I'm not a big social media guy, but I think it is just my name with some numbers on the back side of it. So.
Love it. Give it to Dave so he can share it in the comment section below.
So folks, if you're looking for Nick's TikTok, just type at Nick Dilts 1, see if it pops up, and then try 2, and then try 3, and just see if you can type as many numbers as you can before you find it.
Or just type in, when you do like your hashtags, just type in EHTC or Everyone Hates the Commissioner, because that is the name of my podcast, and then it may pop up of some Obi's
there we
picks.
go. Okay.
So.
Little cheat code there for you.
What is your guys' relationship report card for the week?
Well, it's funny. I've been kind of texting Monica about that here in the while Dave was doing the intro, and she's not really understanding what it's all about here, because like, I don't know if everybody knows, John gave me about 5 seconds of a heads up on what we're running through tonight, so I wasn't very prepared for this one.
But you are engaged, and you've been a good boy. You've been going to the venues and touring a lot of venues.
You're engaged?
Congratulations on the engagement.
When did that happen?
Like 3 weeks ago.
Oh, congrats, man. That's big news.
Yeah.
Breaking news on Amateur Hour Podcast. Nick Dilts is engaged.
Yeah, right. Who would have thought?
Yeah. You're a lucky man. Monica is a little delusional to be, because she's out of your league, but all the power to her. She's happy. We're happy for her. We're happy for you guys. So yeah, congrats on that.
Well, thank you very much.
So you got to get at least, for being engaged, you're in that honeymoon phase of the engagement, you got to get at least an 8.
Yeah, we were kind of going back and forth on the color schemes the last 2 nights, but I think we got it dialed in. So, yep, that'll give me a solid score, I bet.
Okay,
as long as you and your fiance don't have a Dana White situation, it should be okay.
Yeah,
For those of you that do not know what I'm talking about, big old slap fest between Dana White and his wife at a club on New Year's. So brutal clip that came out on Dana White. That's a tough thing to see.
Yep.
Keep your hands off the women, ladies and gentlemen. So I did not get a specific grade this week, but I did not viciously black out on New Year's. So I think that deserves at least an 8 for this week.
Yeah. Good job, Joe. Or Dave, sorry. I forgot to ask Carla, and if I would have asked right now, she's working on a cat puzzle, and I think that would have tanked my score, so I didn't even ask. But I would say I really haven't done anything that wonderful, so I'll probably get for the week. But I would give her a 10. She let me have all my buddies over from high school Saturday night for New Year's Eve, and then we had some college friends in to tailgate for the game on Sunday. So it was a lot of drinking, a lot of rambunctious activities, and she was there for all of it with a smile on her face. So I'll give her a 10.
Yep, she's a good sport.
She is. Pick'em results this week. Want to give a shout out to Dan for winning. He did tie, I believe, in week 11. He won this week outright. He had 10 out of 17 correct. So congrats to you, Dan. Good work. And then another quick shout out to Amanda and Shauna. They were tied for second, and they texted me and decided to donate their winnings to the charity for
Damar Hamlin.
Damar Hamlin, yes. Basically, it's not to him; it's for the kids. He's like gets kids and gifts for kids in the Buffalo area. So, shout out to them for that. Nice.
Yeah, a couple quick comments on that. really nice gesture out of Shauna and Amanda there. I thought it was kind of hilarious in the group chat where Dan just collected his winnings and then the second and third place donated their winnings to a charity. So good for Dan for his $120. I hope he's proud of himself. And second of all, I wore this Walter Payton jersey today in honor of Dan. You know, if you watched Everyone Hates a Commissioner with Dan as the co-host and Nick Dilts as the other co-host, he wore his Walter Payton jersey for me in honor of me. So I wore it today in honor of him. So enjoy your $120 winnings, Dan.
And quick other before I forget, we have Amanda Wiedemeyer's blowout of the week. She is putting money down. So the Seattle Seahawks are favored currently for the week by 6.5 points over the Rams. She will be betting that they win by 13.5 points or more, which will pay out double her money. So I don't know how much she's put down, but if it's $20, she would win 40 and get a $60 payout. So I guess
Nice.
triple your money, right? Effectively?
Technically, well, no.
You double your winnings would be double. But either way, thank you, Wiedemeyer, for this wonderful blowout pick.
Yeah, one final note on Dan. If you're still listening, I would have done the same thing. So, you know, I'm poking fun at you, but I can't say I wouldn't have done anything differently. So shout out Dan.
I don't think he'll listen, so I don't think you have anything to worry about.
Okay.
But still a good week for him. And then Nick, just so we can recap, Nick won in week 12, and I believe he won via tiebreaker. Last week you had more success in the pick'em, but I think now, you know, it's a hard game. It's especially hard with 21 people, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think overall, I'm doing pretty solid at 19 games over 500. But like you said, it's a little bit tougher to
Yes.
bring in the money when you have a lot of people participating. But it's been fun. It's been more challenging. But I feel
19
like I've been
19 games over 500 is really good. You should pat yourself on the back. I mean, that's a great season.
It is, yeah.
I think I'm 2 games over 500 right now.
Okay.
127 and 125.
Nick, do you have a different strategy this year that you did last year, or do you have something you can share with people on how you'd make your picks?
No, I'm not going to share everything because this is a competition.
Great
But
secret.
I have done a lot more reading and research. I have a couple cool sites that I dive into each week that I think has given me a different perspective on things. But overall, I think a lot of it is still just kind of gut, you know, and what I mean, you know, how I think things are going to pan out. So
So a lot of times, like now you mentioned that, and we had Bo on a couple times. Obviously, he's won like 3 times, and he mentions the same thing. You know, he's done more research this year. But something I found difficult in the past is last year when we did this for the first time, I would try to do a little bit of research, but the lines would move so much by the time like the pick'em results solidify on whatever Tuesday afternoon. And by the time I'm like looking up things on Wednesday or Thursday or Friday or Saturday, that it was like impossible to correlate these experts' advice with the pick'em lines. So for example, like the Bucks would open at +2.5, and then by the time I'm reading these articles, it's like, yeah, I would feel comfortable with the Bucks at +5.5, and I'm like, okay, well, do you feel comfortable with +2.5, or should I swing the other way? So that's a challenge that I found throughout the research process.
I feel like if it goes the other way though, David, then you know you got a lock.
Right. I
You
agree
know
with
what I
you,
mean?
Nick. I do that
Like
often.
if the line swings, you know, more that way, then you feel more comfortable with it.
So if it's at like 2.5, and then all of a sudden they're favored, or that's only like a half point, well then you know Vegas is pushing that. So then you know that then you have maybe a little bit of a you know a benefit
An
there.
advantage.
Yeah, an
Yeah,
advantage.
that's a good counterpoint. That's a good counterpoint.
Yeah, you'll see like if there's news, like say of a quarterback not playing and it hasn't been officially stated yet. Like I think 2 weeks ago they weren't sure if it'd be Gardner Minshew or Jalen Hurts. There were some sharp bettors who have like insider connections at the Eagles, and they started just hammering money on the Eagles, whatever the spread was at, or maybe it was the opposite. They started hammering on the other team, the Cowboys, right?
Yeah.
And then when it came out that Gardner Minshew was starting, then the line shot way up. partly because these big money guys had put so much money on the Cowboys, and that's what pushed it. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes it doesn't work out, but I feel like more often than not, if you look at the lines right before the game time, that can give you a little bit of a advantage for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, what about was our lock of the week results?
Yeah, so with the lock of the week, overall another 0 for 3 week out of the Amateur Hour podcast crew. So I had the
Love it.
Patriots minus 2.5 versus Miami. Bullshit finish to that game. Patriots had it pretty much locked in. Kind of pissed it away. Ended up winning by 2. So that really sucked. And then you had the Vikings plus 2.5 versus the Packers playing your stupid mind games. So that did not cover, but you're happy with the Packers win. So
Yep.
there's that. And then Amanda's lock was the 49ers minus 5.5 versus the Raiders. They won by 3 in overtime. So they did not cover. Amanda told us luckily she did not put a bet in for that, so she did not lose real money on that lock. She was talking big on the podcast and ended up not putting any money on it. So overall, I am 9-8 on the year, getting closer and closer to 500. I think I'm on like a 3-game losing streak on my locks. John, you are 7-10 on the year, and the guest falls to 3-10.
Wow.
Ouch.
I forgot to ask quick. What are you guys drinking? Nick, you should share.
Well, I am not on Everyone Hates the Commissioner, so I don't have to be partial to my favorite Basil Hayden's. But tonight I have a bottle of Angel's Envy here that I'm enjoying while we're doing this. So very good stuff.
Bourbon.
Nice.
Yep.
I do not have a beverage this evening. My mouth is a little bit dry as we speak here.
Good. I have water. So, Nick, you are the star of this show.
It's officially been like 16 weeks since John had an alcoholic beverage on the podcast.
That's not true. It's not true. What was the big baller of the week results?
Big baller of the week, I had Gabe Davis, so that's null and void.
Yep.
You had Isaiah Hodgins. Great week out of Isaiah Hodgins. He had a touchdown, so that I could say that's a big baller week. And then Amanda had Isaiah Pacheco, who also had a touchdown. I would say that's also a big baller week. So 2 for 2, I'm going to say on that one with 1 null and void.
We rolled with the Isaiahs. I'm proud of my past self. I didn't even know I picked him, so proud of my
Good
past
job.
self.
Yep, good job.
Okay. What was your guys' surprise game of week 17 in the NFL?
Why don't you go first, John? It seems like you got something ready. I completely forgot that we have this as a segment, so I'm going to look real quick at last week and at the results and see what happened.
Sure. So I was, as a Packers fan, very much excited for the Browns Commanders game. I was tailgating, so I didn't get to watch it, but I was following it on my phone. And I don't know if you guys caught any of it, if you could share in depth about it, but very, very surprised to see the Browns completely dominate the Commanders 24-10 when the Browns essentially had nothing to play for and the Commanders had everything to play for. I'm not quite sure what happened on that game, but I think they went with Carson Wentz, which may have been the first problem.
That's what happened.
That's what happened.
That's what happened. Yeah.
Carson, I'm sorry, your best days are behind you. You're still better than will be, but it does look like he had 3 interceptions, so not a good outing for Carson Wentz. And Deshaun Watson had 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So it's kind of like there were 2. It was like yin and yang, So good for Deshaun. I think if you're around, you're a fan of massages, you're happy to see him doing better.
Nick, do you have a surprise game of the week?
I do, actually. This one really, really surprised me. Being the number 1 defense in the league, I never thought that there was a chance in hell that the San Francisco 49ers are going to get up 34 points to back up Jarrett Stidham and the shit show Las Vegas Raiders. Good for them for hanging in there. But I always have, to be fair, I always have been intrigued by Jarrett Stidham since when the Patriots drafted him, and under Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels, in all the years that Bill Belichick has been head coach for the Patriots, Jarrett Stidham had the best rating and I think accuracy or like completion percentage of any quarterback in the preseason. I know it's a preseason, but I thought that was really interesting, especially when he came out as a rookie. So I was always really intrigued about him. So I think he's a solid passer, and I think that's why Josh McDaniels brought him in as a backup because he knows him. So
Yeah, Jarrett Stidham, 365 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he ran for 34 yards. He had 7 rushing attempts.
I think Pat Mahomes was the only other quarterback in the league to throw 3 touchdowns or more against the Niners defense. So Jarrett Stidham stepped up to the plate. It
Wow.
kind of makes Derek Carr look even worse. So it might hurt his his trading stock.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that unfolds and see how Stidham does in Week 18. But that's kind of interesting development there.
Is Carr officially gone?
I mean, he's done for the season, yeah, but he's not officially like off the team or anything. But he's away from the team right now. It's pretty bleak as far as his future with the Raiders organization. He's been there a long time. He's done a decent job with their rosters that they've had, but I think they're tired of decent and they want to start making a run here a time or two. So I think they're going to move on from Derek Carr. It's just dependent on who's willing to trade for him and what they're willing to give up.
What do you guys feel? How do you guys feel about Brock Purdy?
I mean, I like Big Cock Brock for sure, but I think it might still be too soon to tell on if he's the future of that organization or not. I think he's stepping up big time. He's filling in for the injuries that they've had. He fits well into that system. I mean, I think it's okay to ride with him for now, but I think it's too big of a risk to like get rid of a Trey Lance, if that makes sense. But I think that they can move on from Jimmy Garoppolo and maybe ride forward with Trey Lance and Brock Purdy and see how that duo goes. Because if you can go ahead and start Trey Lance and because that's your high draft pick, and if that doesn't work out, you have Brock Purdy who can step in and perform well. But I think it's too big of a gamble to get rid of Garoppolo and Trey Lance right now. What do you think, Nick?
I agree with you 100%. I think come spring training, it's going to be Trey Lance's team. Their training camps and all that. I think that's going to be his team. But Brock Purdy is doing everything right. He's not making very many mistakes. He's doing everything that you need to do with a really, really good running offense and a very, very good defense. And it's kind of your job is to not turn the ball over and not to make mistakes. So it's going to be hard to take the ball out of his hands. But I agree, you gotta roll and with that number 3 overall pick and all that draft capital you gave up to get him and see what you got with him. But I think it's time. I think they've seen enough between the two of them that they can, like you said, move on from Jimmy G.
And they're gonna have pretty cheap contracts, both of those guys. So if they can get rid of Jimmy G, get some draft capital or something, I think they're gonna be sitting pretty.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's tough to compare to like Trey Lance. He played 2 games this year?
1.
He got hurt in the second.
Oh, second game. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And so you didn't really get to see much. I don't know if they beat the Bears. Did they lose to the Bears?
No,
they lost to the Bears. Yeah.
They did. That was the old
like sloppy, rainy. It was like flooding Soldier Field.
Oh yeah.
The old iconic Justin Fields photo in the end zone sliding through down the field. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, so I think it's tough, but I will say I think if they get to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl with Brock Purdy, I think it's going to be very difficult to put in Trey Lance because it's not Nick Foles. It's not a journeyman quarterback. This is a guy that's never played in the NFL. And so it's not like we've seen what he can do in the NFL besides these games. So I think that would be the only case. I would agree with you guys. I think if they get knocked out first, second round, it'll be at least a quarterback competition. And it may be if they win the Super Bowl with Brock Purdy, but it'll for sure be interesting. I guess I'm just rooting for the guy because he was drafted so late. He's just like a underdog story,
I've just seen a little bit of talk of like, since Brock Purdy's having success, them going with Brock Purdy and Jimmy G and getting rid of Trey Lance, which I don't think will happen. I think, obviously they drafted him so high. They feel confident about his abilities. I also think Brock Purdy's kind of just a younger Jimmy G at this point. Like he hasn't blown us away, right? He just fits well into the offense, especially for a guy that's a rookie. That was, Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the draft. No one was expecting that, but he's basically been, a Jimmy G, where he can step in, not make mistakes, like you said, Nick. Don't
Yeah.
turn the ball over, move the ball with the skill players that they have. He's done an amazing job of that, but he hasn't blown any away like a Pat Mahomes or an Aaron Rodgers with like his arm strength and his, you know, I guess like playmaking ability by any means.
And that's
Yeah.
exactly why they're going to give Trey Lance a shot first, because they know they already had Jimmy G. And if they have another Jimmy G, they already know what they have with that team. They're looking for that next level quarterback play. And Trey Lance has that ceiling of bringing a whole different dynamic to the quarterback play in San Francisco. So I agree 100%. Those two are very similar, but you don't need two of them on your team. That give Trey Lance a shot, and if it kind of blows up, then roll with Brock Purdy.
Yeah, one last thing on that too that I was thinking about is I don't think an injury is ever good for a player by any means, but I think these first 2 years for Trey Lance will benefit him very well down the road. A la Aaron Rodgers, who kind of sat for what was it, 3 years behind Brett Favre, just being able to learn. And I think Trey Lance sitting that first year behind Jimmy G, and now sitting the second year behind Jimmy G, and now Brock Purdy, he's able to learn from Kyle Shanahan more. He's able to get used to the offense. Like he should have zero excuse by the time these fall camps come up next year in preseason. He should be able to step right in, be able to figure out that offense really quick, and be able to have a good grasp on it. It's just his physical health that should be the question. His mental should be there and very sharp.
Yep.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see if they do, like if they would go back to him as a starter, how long of a leash they would give him. If after 6 games, if they're like 2-4, would they automatically go back to Brock, or like how much of a leash do you give a guy like that if you know how good your backup is?
Right.
I think a pretty short leash, yeah, because 49ers are in win now mentality. They're
Right.
not the Chicago Bears, who are like in a 10-year rebuild, right? So you expect the 49ers to win now. They're not going to sit there and watch a young quarterback struggle when they know they have a good
And
piece
develop
sitting
and
behind
blah
him.
blah.
Yeah. They're not in the mentality of developing a quarterback right now.
No. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
David, hot take here. How do you know the Bears aren't just they're gonna kind of just coast here at the bottom until they get that new stadium built? Because you don't want to have a bad team in a brand new fancy stadium.
Well, yeah, you're exactly right. So it depends on how this offseason goes, but right now, it's not looking pretty for the roster right now and for the immediate future. But I love, going into this offseason, I feel really good about the Bears. So they might build this new stadium, and hopefully that propels them to be even more successful and sell out the stadium. Who knows? But they got to put a good roster on the field before they show off their new stadium for sure.
Dave, who is your surprise game of the week?
I guess one game I was surprised by, you guys both hit on two that I was thinking of, but one that I was looking at was the Eagles Saints. The Saints have been like the thorn in my side this year as far as picking spreads, because the Saints, they're either like the worst team in the NFL, or they'll cover the spread and sometimes even win outright like this one. Like, sure, the Eagles didn't have Jalen Hurts, but the Eagles did well against a tougher Cowboys team, just a week prior with Gardner Minshew. So I was expecting the Eagles to at least win the game outright. The 6.5 definitely made me nervous, but I was thinking the Saints aren't good. I think the Eagles can still cover a touchdown here because of how good that defense is. And the Saints put up 20 points on them. The Saints, ran the ball well. They used Taysom Hill well, and they ended up winning 20-10. So I think that game really surprised me.
Yeah, that's a good pick. You don't expect that from the Eagles because I know they have Gardner Minshew in there, but the rest of the team is so talented that I don't know. You would think they would just find a way to get it done, especially like they're playing for something, right? I mean, at this point, if they don't win this next week, they have I don't think they're going to get the 1 seed and the
Well,
bye.
and Gardner Minshew's not a terrible quarterback either. Like he was a really good
No.
college quarterback, and he's kind of small, and he came from like one of the bottom tier Pac-12 schools, so people didn't draft him highly. But he's a smart guy. He's really hardworking, and he's obviously had some success in the NFL to stay around this long. And sometimes I gamble and do the pick 'em with my heart. And Mike Leach died, a few weeks ago, and Gardner Minshew played for him in college. So I was thinking this is the Gardner Minshew Mike Leach game. They're definitely going to cover the spread. They did not cover the spread. They didn't even win. So I think he let Mike Leach down in that game for sure.
Yep. Sorry to Mike Leach. Top 5 fantasy scores for the week: Mike Evans and Tom Brady lead the way. Mike Evans balled out with 49 points. I think he had 3 touchdowns. Both of them did extremely well. Third is Daniel Jones. Devontae Adams fourth. Austin Eckler fifth. How do you guys feel about Daniel Jones being up there?
I feel like
Nick?
that guy's. I think he's always going to have like a kind of a random good game here and there, but overall, I would not trust my franchise with Daniel Jones for a long term.
No, he's a more athletic Eli Manning. He's a guy that like he'll have a flash in the pan game where he's throwing for 300, 400 yards, but consistently week to week, I wouldn't trust him with the keys to the franchise either, like you said, Nick. You love Dan Jones, John. You're a huge Dan Jones guy. You kind of look like Dan Jones. You want to be him so bad, but it's just not really working out. And I think the Giants will never quite get over that hump with Daniel Jones. But hey, they made the playoffs first time since 2016, the boat incident. So shout out the Giants for clinching, and shout out Dan Jones for bringing them to the playoffs.
Yeah, and
you think
he was
Brian
drafted
Dable, like coach of the year, best head coaching debut ever by Brian Dable? You think?
I mean, the Vikings coach has to be up there too, right?
Vikings have a much better roster, though.
That's
They
true.
do.
So here's the thing about Dan Jones. Who does he
And
have
the
to
NFC
throw
North
to?
sucks.
Yeah. Who does Dan Jones have to throw to?
That is a very good point,
Shit.
John. That is a very good point. But he's
What about
had
his
people.
offensive line?
I think it's getting better. But at the same time, he has had people to throw to in the past couple of years. And not to mention they spent the second overall pick on Saquon Barkley. And they're never going to get the most. I'm not saying he's doing badly, but could you imagine if they weren't stacking the 7 or 8 in the box every time against Saquon Barkley, because their quarterback could throw the ball a little bit better? Imagine how sick that would be.
I agree. Would you agree that so I think we can compare. So if next year, if Justin Fields does not make the playoffs, can you compare the Giants and the Bears? Are they equally as shitty organizations, or do you think the Bears are run more shitty?
The Bears are probably run more shitty, I think, but you can't I don't know. I think
That'll be his third year. This is Dan Jones' third year.
yeah, but it's kind of
It
2.5 for Fields, and they're not in the same year. That's completely wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's a year.
This is like his 4th or 5th year in the league.
Fields' second year. No.
This is Fields is like 1.5 year, yeah.
Dan Jones was drafted in 2019, dude.
Yeah, it's 2023.
He was selected in the spring, so he played the 2019 to 2020 year, 2020, 21. Oh, yeah, you're right. Fourth year. Okay, so Justin Fields has 2 more years.
Yeah, and
They
he's
did
kind of
pick
like I
up.
said, he didn't start the first half of his first season, and the Bears have like the shittiest roster ever constructed right now. So I'm not judging Justin Fields off anything yet. And even if I was judging him, I still would love him and kiss him on the cheek because it keeps us alive in games. He makes it fun to watch. I turn on the Bears game every single week, excited to watch because of Justin Fields. If they had any other quarterback in there right now, like not counting these top tier guys, but in Bears recent history, I would be just devastated to turn on the Bears game. But Justin Fields makes it exciting.
So here's my question. We can move into the Bears now. Was not a good week for them. They got stomped by the Lions, but I was reading on Reddit. Do you know how many times this season Justin Fields has thrown for more than 200 yards?
I'm gonna go ahead and say 0.
Nick?
I was gonna say once or twice.
Twice. So I mean, like if you're betting on DraftKings and you see the over/under passing at like 180, you're hitting the under every time, I feel like. And that's the question. My question for you, David. If the passing, I know he's electric with his legs. He's a phenomenal athlete. But if the passing doesn't get better, is that a concern?
I think this is a hot take. Okay, everybody, hold on to your chairs. I think Justin Fields is a better passer than he is a runner.
Oh, wow.
And that is because I'm a big college football fan. I've watched Justin Fields his entire career. I even watched Justin Fields in high school. He's featured on QB1, a show on Netflix. He is a phenomenal passer, but right now he's stuck on a team that they're struggling offensively. Their offensive line cannot protect him to save his life. He's scrambling for his life. He holds onto the ball too long. They pass it like 10 times a game. If you look at like the quantity of passes he has, his
Yeah,
opportunities are super limited. His wide receiver room is probably the worst in the NFL, maybe next to the Giants or
there
close
we
to the
go.
Giants. He just has. I think now they're designing these more design quarterback runs, which are beneficial for him in the run game, and it opens up the offense, but it's limiting his development as a passer even more. So I think they need to focus on getting an offensive line that can protect him so he can drop back comfortably and scan the field and sling the ball around in the pocket like he did in college. Because I think right now he's just in a situation that doesn't fit his, I don't want to say it doesn't fit his skill set because obviously he's shown he's an amazing runner, but I don't think he should be running as his primary asset. I think he's more of a poor man's Josh Allen where he can drop back, he can sling the ball, but then if he needs to run, he can run and be a tough runner. I don't think he's like a Lamar Jackson type player where he's a run first mentality and then happen to pass it. I think he's kind of in between the Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, where passing should be primary, and then he can run if he needs to, if that makes sense.
Nick, what do you think about?
I lost him too. I don't know what he
What was
said.
he gonna say? What about Justin Fields?
Yeah, just what do you think about what I just said in his initial question
Um,
and stuff?
well, I think Justin Fields is he's a phenomenal athlete. But when obviously everybody has the Bears offense figured out, and that is due to the lack of weapons. Um, you could see like he had more than 100 rushing yards in the first quarter against the Lions this last week, and it was there was a couple designed, and then there was that one that I think they were just in man coverage, and like you said, because their offensive line is so bad, it just he had to go, and it just he have like that 60 or 70 yard that run or whatever it was. But yeah, I need some help. I think more than anything, they need to bolster that offensive line. They know that they have something in Justin Fields, and with their first round pick, I feel like you need to go out and get the best offensive line available, offensive lineman, and then you can it's all over the league that there's examples all over the league that you can get some really legit wide receivers in rounds 2 and 3. So maybe use one, but I feel like in the next draft, 2 out of their first 3 picks need to be offensive linemen. They love the guy. I think he has a really bright future, which isn't great for me as a Packers fan, but they got to help him out for sure. And I think it starts up front because they
Yeah.
are a run first offense.
I think it's going to be a tough thing to balance because, like you said, I completely agree. Like, we need to put an offensive line around him to protect him because nothing else goes if he doesn't have time. But I also think our defense is so bad that it's going to be hard to like
Yeah,
not address that immediately too because we're not
yeah,
going to be able to stop anybody in the near future. But I think as far as if you are confident that Justin Fields is your franchise quarterback, like you said, offensive line has to be the priority because we need to keep him healthy. And I
yep.
think speaking of keeping him healthy, we need to keep him out of this next game. I think they'll absolutely play him against the Vikings, and I just don't think that's a good idea because, he's not going to be hurt at all by missing one NFL game for his development, especially against a tough Vikings team in a game where they're kind of playing for seeding and the Bears have nothing to play for. The Bears want to lose for draft pick. So why put him out there like in a dangerous situation when you can just, let him rest, let him stay healthy, go into the offseason knowing that you have a healthy franchise quarterback, hopefully, and start to build around that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would play him next week, unless he's hurt right now. I'm not sure if he is or not, but if he's healthy, I'd play him just so he can get that extra game of experience going into next year. But I was going to ask you, the Bears are. Let me look here real quick. They're 3-13, and let's say they get beat up this week against Minnesota. That'll put them at 3-14. So that's going to be probably a top 2 or 3 pick in the draft. What would you like to see them do with that?
Yeah, good question. I think ideally, I've gone back and forth on this. I think ideally, I'd like them to trade back a couple picks. I think if we can somehow get 2 first rounders out of that, 1 or 2 spot, I think that'd be huge Getting 2 first-round picks will be super beneficial. I think those top couple guys are really attractive in Javon Carter out of Georgia because our defensive line is horrible. We need a pass rusher. And then I love Will Anderson. He's that linebacker out of Alabama who's like a complete stud. And that's a type of guy you put into your defense and you can build around him. A premier linebacker at a cheap contract would be huge for the Bears right now. However, I think, like you said, our focus should be more on offensive line. It's a very deep wide receiver draft, so I think trading back a couple picks, picking the best offensive line available, and then the next best defensive player available, and then maybe getting like a second round pick on a wide receiver, a second and third round pick on a lineman. I think that should be the priority for the Bears.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any wide receivers you like, David? Any rookie wide receivers?
Can you see him, Nick?
I can. He switched from left to right, but I can see that. I mean, it's hard to miss the.
I'm gonna have to leave. Once you guys start talking about the Packers, I'll leave and come back. What was your question, John?
Do you have any rookie wide receivers you like?
Yeah, we've talked about this the last couple of episodes. I really like actually Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I think him being out most of the year this year is going to drop his stock, which will be beneficial for a team like the Bears that doesn't have to waste a high pick on him. But I think that the top 3 wide receivers in the NFL draft, the clear-cut guys are absolute studs. I don't think you can miss on any of them. I've taken a 180 on my Kevin White prediction out of Quentin Johnson, out of the guy on TCU. I was worried that he would be the next Kevin White, and he looks like a stud. So I take that back. He just physically looks like Kevin White. I think he's going to be a good pick wherever he goes. And then my favorite pick in the draft for wide receiver is Jordan Addison out of USC.
Not JSN. You like Jordan Addison the best?
Yeah, if I had to pick one, it would be him. But I think out of value, I like Jackson Smith and Jigba the best, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You know why John's asking that, right?
I think those actually those top 2 quarterbacks in the draft this year, and Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, actually really helped the Bears in the long term too, because I think teams are going to be licking their chops trying to get up to get those guys. They both performed really well in their bowl games. Even though Ohio State lost, they barely lost to Georgia, and he played super well. So I think teams are going to really be wanting those guys. And Will Levis is another top prospect where Kentucky played against Iowa without him, and they got their ass kicked. So I think teams are going to be like, wow, maybe Will Levis is a better player than we thought too. So all he has to do is maybe hold the door open for a lady and walk an old man across the street, and he'll be the number 1 overall pick.
Number 1 overall, drive a shit car, show up in your beater car. Yeah, you'll be in the door, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, do you think in our Dynasty Football League, do you foresee any quarterbacks getting drafted in the top 6?
Oh, that's a good question. Possibly. I know that there's a couple of good prospects there at the top. But that's a good question.
Because this year there wasn't shit. Kenny Pickett was maybe the only guy, and so far has looked like the only good rookie quarterback. But I think C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young are much more highly touted. You know, people are more excited about him. And I think Kenny Pickett did go in the first round, didn't he?
Yeah,
in the first.
Okay, like 20 around there.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see how that plays out, because I don't know. In a 1 QB league, I feel like quarterbacks aren't as sought after as in a super flex. But I'm interested to see if I would love them to go early, because I won't take them, but we'll see how that plays out. Nick, do you have any rookies in Dynasty football that you like? Can you just share one?
Well, you did ask me this last weekend, and I told you I wasn't really focused on it that much, because I knew that I was going to get a couple later picks. So a lot of those really well sought after guys are going to be gone. Those 3 wide receivers, like you were talking about, alluded to before, David, they're going to be gone. I think my first pick is going to be 7 or no, I'm sorry, it's going to be 8. And I think depending on with how this Bills and Bengals game pans out, it could be 8 and 9, or it could be 8 and 10. So I'm not sure. I'm kind of leaving everything on the table. I'd be interested in moving up a little as well, but I do like a couple of those tight ends that are coming out this year. That's interesting. But at the same time, when there's one tight end that's doubled in fantasy points, the second best tight end, it's that you don't have a ton of value at the tight end position because there's only one Patrick Mahomes Travis Kelce combination in the league. So
You want a good tight end to look out for? I'm going to drop a name here. He might not be in the top 3 tight ends in the draft, but I love Dalton Kincaid out of Utah. I think he's a guy that is a stud. I've watched him play Oregon a lot of times. He dominates Oregon every time. He's sure-handed. He runs good routes, and he's tough. So keep your eyes out for Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, I think I was researching this. Tight ends, I think you want them basically if a tight end isn't drafted in the first 4 rounds, there's obviously misnomers, but they don't turn out that well. They don't really have great career. Like they'll be, serviceable tight ends, but they won't be great for fantasy. Obviously, the one exception is Antonio Gates, who was undrafted.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think he played football until, is that right? Or something
Until he was
stupid
in
like
college, I think, right?
that
He
might
played
be it. Yeah.
basketball.
Just demented, and he's one of the best tight ends of all time. But yeah, I think there's that Michael Meyer, there's that big guy out of Georgia, and there's one more I can't think of. But I think one that people are really excited about is that other Georgia tight end coming out, not this year, but next year. And I forget
Yeah,
his name.
Brock Bowers.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah. People are pretty excited about him. The thing about tight ends is it's very rare statistic wise where you have them being super great as a rookie. It seems to take time, like 2 to 3 years for the tight end position to develop. So
Can
maybe
I
a good
ask you guys
opportunity.
something? I know he's been hurt, but when he's out there, and he's been out there a lot this season, I think. What's going on with Robert Tonyan on the Packers? I feel like he might have just scored this week, I think.
Yeah.
But he hasn't been very good this whole season. And I thought that he was going to have a great year with Aaron Rodgers, and they
Yeah.
had that one really great year when he had like 10 or 12 touchdowns. So can you explain that drop off? I mean, I haven't been paying enough attention.
What do you know, Nick?
Well, I know that he just recovered from an ACL surgery, and that even though that he's on the field and he's playing, from what I gather, it takes a lot longer. Just because you're cleared to play football it it doesn't mean that they're back to where they once were. And I think that it takes a lot longer. I mean, you can see it, for example, like Saquon Barkley, when he tore his ACL last year, he kind of had a rough year. He was banged up a little bit, but now on year 2 off of that ACL injury, look what he's doing. He's doing a fantastic job. Same with a lot of guys. Like, they say that even because he tore it in the halfway through the season last year, so he wasn't probably even 100% until I don't even think he was started the season healthy. So he's got some time. If they bring him back next year, I think he's going to be a really valuable weapon. But I think first and foremost, it's just him not being 100% himself right now.
Yeah, that was a good bit of information you shared, Nick, with me earlier this football season. And I've kind of noticed that these guys that have Achilles, ACL, those leg injuries, the first they can play in the first, after 12 months, but they don't have that full explosive, like short burst speed that they had. So you're right. Yeah, I was exactly right with Saquon. You're starting to see it with Cam Akers. I know he came back before the Super Bowl, and they've obviously given him more opportunities, but he's looked a little better. So yeah, I think I would agree with Nick. He only has 2 less receptions in that year. He had 11 touchdowns and like 120 less yards, but he just had all those touchdowns that year, and he just hasn't this year. So I don't know. He's been in most games, but
Mm-hmm.
like Nick
I,
said,
I,
he
I
just
didn't realize his stats were that similar to that year. So good for
yeah,
Bob Tonyan, kind of a quiet killer. But
yeah.
but he was such a fantasy asset that year because I mean that's almost like a touchdown a game in the fantasy season. So
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah, let's get to the Packer game. I think that would be a surprise game of the week for a lot of people. I sure was floored to see the final score. I knew everyone says that about the Vikings that they're I don't want to say artificial, but they're like fakers and people don't think they're really good. They just win these close games.
Frauds.
Frauds, there you go. But I was surprised because normally the Packers always find a way to keep games close. So I was very surprised that they won by 24 points. What did you see, Nick, on the television? Because you usually see more than I do at the game.
I was very impressed with our ability to create some pass rush on Kirk Cousins, which is his kryptonite, and it always has been. But I'm still. People want to try to give Joe Barry all the credit there. Definitely wasn't the offense that is the reason why we put up 41 points. That's for sure. But they looked better. It looks like things are clicking schematically on defense. But I still think when we come into, like you said, maybe you want to call the Vikings frauds. I would like to use that word because I dislike the Vikings very much, but maybe that's not the most appropriate word. But but still, they looked overall that was definitely our most complete game in all three phases of football all season, and it's good to see that we're doing it at the end of the year because maybe we can kind of take this little run into the playoffs and see what happens.
They're clicking at the right time, that's for sure. I mean, they look good going into the playoffs. So I would be pretty excited as a Packer fan right now, and as a Bears fan, I'm pretty terrified. But good luck to you guys the rest of the way.
Thank you, David. Yeah, I was really it was exciting because we've been to the Jets and the Rams. The Rams game was exciting, but the Rams sucked, so it wasn't like that. This one had like a playoff energy because it's been well known now that they needed to win the last two if they wanted to even have a shot. And the Vikings are obviously a rival, and they traveled well for this game. Like half the stadium was purple and white and gold. And you could hear it too at the beginning of the game when they had that punt block and almost ran it in for a touchdown. It was very loud in there. So it was fun to be sitting also around Vikings fans and keep cheering on Kirk Cousins after he threw interception after interception, and say, "Go Kirk. Yeah, give Kirk the ball. He's so great." But yeah, I thought the most exciting play for me, obviously that Keyshawn Nixon return for a touchdown. That was huge, like big momentum changer. And then that pick six where he like intercepted it on the opposite side of the field and ran all the way over to the other side and returned it for a touchdown.
Fun fact for you, that's the first time since 1969 that the Green Bay Packers have had a return touchdown and a defensive touchdown in the first quarter of the same game. And it was against, do you want to take a gander, both of you, on who that was against?
The Chicago Bears.
Did you say the Bears too?
Yeah.
John? Nope. It was, well, it's close. Well, I think there was the St. Louis Cardinals, actually, the football team.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Fun fact about the Bears, too. I know we already talked about their game, but I want to say this because this stat blew my mind. I was watching the Bears game, and they scored on the first possession of the game. They were grooving. They looked good on the first drive. That is their league-leading 12th time scoring on their first opening drive of the game, and they are 3-14.
How the heck?
3-13, whatever. How the hell does that happen? How do you lead the league in scoring on the opening drive and like pretty much not score the rest of the game and end up, with 3 wins? That just even makes them look even worse.
And speaking of divisional rivals, I am a little terrified for the Lions, like to play that the Packers play them because they are also getting hot at the right time.
Incoming John's lock of the week is the Lions to cover the spread against the Packers.
Maybe it will be, David. Maybe it won't. Maybe it won't. But they are playing very, very well, and they shit stomped the Bears last week, and they've played well against some really good teams. So I'm a little frightened. I think the benefit that the Packers maybe have going for them is the Lions are a dome team, and maybe they won't like the cold as much. It'll make them a little uncomfortable. That's what I'm hoping, at least. Not me though, David. I'll be comfortable up there.
It's true. They hate the cold, man. I think the Lions are screwed. I think the Packers are going to win, and I think they're going to win easily and march into the playoffs on this momentous streak. I think Jared Goff's a Cali boy. He's going to struggle in the cold at Lambeau. So, if the weather is 35 or lower, I think the Packers stomp the Lions.
It's going to be a night, yeah, because it's a night game too. I think it'll be about 20 degrees. So hopefully the wind's howling.
I want to bring in a quick segment from my other show, Peaked in College. It's called Grinds My Gears. It's things that, really bother me, really bug me. I want to get this off my chest. One thing about your lovely wife, Carla, when she posts on Snapchat, and maybe this is a joke and I'm just not getting it, it's going over my head. When she says add a game on a school night, it really grinds my gears because every single NFL game is a school night unless, you have a holiday the next day or you're off of work or something. A Thursday night game is a school night. A Sunday night game is a school night. A Monday
Not
night
those
game is
Saturday
a school
games.
night.
Not those
Saturday night,
Saturday.
yeah, but that's an exception and an anomaly. So that really grinds my gears. So Carla, knock it off.
Thank you. I won't let her know, but keep up the good work.
Let her know. I'm gonna clip this and text it to her.
Yeah, I bet you will. Nick, what about you? Are you worried about the Lions?
A little bit, but I think that we're riding on this high, man, and I don't think there's anybody, at least the Lions. I think right now, if the season ended and we were to sneak in at the 7th seed, I do believe that we would be playing the 49ers and the Cowboys would be playing the Buccaneers, I think is how that would work out, something like that.
Well, if we play the 49ers, it will have been a fun run because I don't think Aaron Rodgers has ever beat him in the playoffs, and this will not be the year. So
I don't know. They look pretty beatable against the Raiders. The Raiders are a lot worse team than the Packers.
Yeah. I don't know. I still think I think I'm a little worried, yes, but I think the Lions are doing a lot of good things. They're making some strides forward, but this is not the year.
I think the line about Jared Goff being their franchise QB was BS. Personally,
I think if they don't draft a good quarterback this year or next year, they're morons.
I don't think he's playing badly by any means. He's doing pretty good, but again, you're looking at long-term success, and like you said, you gotta. I'd take a shot at a quarterback here in the really near future.
Yeah. Who did you guys have for big ballers of the week? Do you want me to start?
If you want to, go ahead.
Okay, I had I'm going to take Jerick McKinnon. He's been playing very well. He's got the Raiders defense, which anyone who plays the Raiders, it seems to be a high scoring affair. So I like Jerick McKinnon to at least get one touchdown.
Okay, Nick, do you have anybody?
Well, this is I don't know if this is like a big surprise by any means, but a team that has really come on late, and I'm gonna put a smile on your face here, David. But this team is red hot. I think they locked up a playoff spot this last weekend, and I really think things are clicking. Everybody's getting healthy. I think Justin Herbert's going to have a really really good game this weekend against that bad Broncos team. So, like I said, everything is clicking for them at the right time, and good for them. The Chargers deserve it. They've kind of just been floating in the middle for a very long time. So we'll see if they can make a good push here in the playoffs.
Yeah, I was pretty nervous about that Rams game actually after the Rams, performed pretty well on Christmas Day against the Broncos and the Chargers came out, they came ready to play and they played really well. I think they seem like I've been watching the Chargers all year because obviously Herbert and I'd say the Chargers are my second favorite team in the league just because some of the guys on their team, but when they have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams out there healthy, they're like a whole different team. It's a whole different ball game when Herbert has those guys to sling it to because they're tall, they're good route runners, they have great hands, they're confident out there, so having them out there is a world of a difference. So hopefully they can stay healthy for a playoff run. My big baller of the week is going to be Trey McBride, the tight end on the Cardinals. So the 49ers defense is really solid, but if there's one vulnerability for their team, I would say it's against tight ends. And Darren Waller, you saw Darren Waller score last week on the Raiders against them, and he hasn't scored in weeks. So I see Trey McBride, who's been getting involved very heavily lately. He has 17 points last week. I see him having another great week this week. I think the 49ers are going to be up, and they're going to be up early and often. The Cardinals are going to be slinging it around. The Niners are going to put a lot of pressure on the Cardinals, so they're going to have to get rid of the ball quick. So I see a lot of dump offs to running backs, and I see a lot of shorter routes to the tight ends, getting them involved.
Can I ask you a question, David Wood? You're the second person in the last week that I've heard that just loves Trey McBride. What's the hype? I'm not sure I understand it.
I mean, I'm not gonna get on my knees for the guy, but I think as far as tight ends are concerned, he's in the upper echelon as far as athleticism. He's an athletic tight end. He's young. I think he's hungry. He's out there. He gets open. If you watch the Cardinals games, which are pitiful to watch, but Trey McBride, he does a good job of getting open, getting separation. When most of the time tight ends have a lot of success off their pure size. He's not an overly huge tight end, so he has to have a lot of success getting separation, running clean routes, and that's what I like out of McBride.
Interesting. Yeah, he was a waiver wire. I saw him on the waiver wire and didn't pick him up, but I think I know he had a big game last week, but he's a rookie and looks like he has a bright future. I think going into the draft, I think he was pretty highly touted. I think he was taken in the first.
Oh, he's a rookie this year?
Yeah, he's a rookie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You piqued Nick's interest now when you said rookie. Ooh.
Yeah, and I love that Trey McBride's gonna be taking over that tight end room in Arizona because John was trying to fucking swipe a first rounder for Zach Ertz from me earlier this year.
Bullshit. That was a package deal.
Well, still, man, I'm like, there's no way. However it panned out, it was like a first rounder for Zach Ertz. No, thank you.
I do think there is some buy low opportunities on tight ends in dynasty football because so many of them have underperformed. I mean,
it's a total crapshoot.
I know, but if you can get them for cheap, if you can get like Dallas Goedert or Dalton Schultz for cheap, someone's got to explode. They're just bound to explode soon. I don't know who it is, but
next big thing, Dalton Kincaid. Keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah, we'll keep our eyes peeled. No, and Trey McBride. It's going to be the Trey McBride, Dalton Kincaid.
I didn't say his future's bright. I just said I liked him this week.
Okay. I mean, I think I would agree. I think his future's bright if you would have said that. Because Kyler Murray loves tight ends. He likes throwing to the tight end.
Shout out my guy, Eric Saubert on the Broncos, number 82, Drake alum. So he's still in the NFL. He's I think got to be year 5 now. So that's a big deal. I mean, 1 or 2 more years, he's got that lifetime pension. So shout out Saubert. Hopefully he can keep playing.
Is that how long you got to make it?
I think it's like 6 years. Yeah, 6 or 7 to get a pension.
Because most guys get 3 years.
That's the average length of an NFL career.
Yeah, very short. Okay, who are you guys' locks of the week?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh boy.
I'm going to put the nail in their coffin. I picked them to they were my favorites out of the AFC until Ryan Tannehill went down. And I'll just put the nail in their coffin this weekend for him, doing another favor. I will take the Titans plus 6.5 against the Jaguars to get into the playoffs. They will lose.
That's who I would have went with there too.
Titans plus 6.5, you said?
Yep.
You want the same thing, Nick?
No. I can't do that. I gotta try to improve your guys' record. You said 3-10, right?
3-10.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's rough. That's rough. Well, I'm not gonna try to jump on what I was talking about earlier, but I think I'm gonna take the Chargers minus 3.5 against Denver.
All right.
Yeah, that's a small spread, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but I think I don't know, man. The Chargers, that's an in-division game, so they're going to be. It's always those games are always tougher. You saw how Denver just played against the Chiefs. I think that sprung that line a little bit closer, a little bit tighter. So I think that's going to be in Nick's favor. Them being a little bit nearsighted, and the Chargers just blew out the Rams. Denver just kept it close with the Chiefs, so that line's naturally going to be tighter. But I think I feel pretty good about that in Week 18 because the Chargers are still playing for something. They're playing for seeding, I believe. So that makes me feel more inclined that the Chargers are going to cover too.
I like that pick.
My lock of the week is going to be the Giants plus 13.5 versus Philadelphia. The Giants are playing for seeding. They have something to play for. The Philadelphia Eagles are also playing for seeding, but they're going to either have Gardner Minshew out there or they're going to bring back Jalen Hurts a little bit too soon. So I like the Giants to keep it close. I don't know. I think Philly could win outright for sure, but that's a huge spread in an in division game with two playoff teams. So I like the Giants to cover the spread there.
Yeah, those divisional games are tough too, so don't ever count those. That's always a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, just last year I remember everyone was hopping on the Colts train into the playoffs, and they're gonna just storm through the playoffs, and then the Jaguars come to town and beat the piss out of them and prevent them from even making it. So yeah, you're right. Even though you think those teams don't have shit to play for, they love beating the piss out of interdivisional rivals. I think it's just a fun time. So
yeah, those interdivisional games, like that Bears Lions game, you knew the Bears were going to keep it close, so you had to put all your money on the Bears to keep it close.
Yeah,
I want to throw a shout out though to another late and upcoming team is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Man, everybody thought they were down and out. I know, but if they win this Sunday, they have a pretty legit shot of making the playoffs as well. And for rookie Kenny Pickett, I mean, kudos to them. Kind of going through a little mini rebuild here after Big Ben and kind of having a little shit show with with a bunch of nutty players. But good for them for being one game out from the playoffs.
I was reading on the Pittsburgh Steelers subreddit, and the fans do not like the offensive coordinator.
Oh no, he's gone. Matt Canada, he's gone.
Is he gone?
Yeah. He's very predictable, yeah.
Because it seems like they have a decent amount of weapons, right? I mean, Deontay Johnson's pretty good. Najee Harris, that other rookie running back, that Warren looks good. George Pickens, so Pat Freiermuth. Yeah, so it seems like they have the talent there, but yeah, they never are high scoring games. Never. They always score like 10 or 13 points.
That's Pittsburgh football though, baby.
I guess, yeah. The fans love it. But any last minute thoughts?
No, not really. Nick, anything from you?
I don't think so. Thanks for having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks for coming on, Nick. You earned it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Nick. This has been episode 18 of Amateur Hour Podcast. Again, shout out, thoughts and prayers to Damar Hamlin and his family. Thank you all for listening. This has been a lot of fun having you on, Nick. Everybody check out Everyone Hates a Commissioner. That is the podcast that Nick Dilts co-hosts with his cousin Dan, who had too much pride to come on the episode this week. So Dan, congrats on the win, and I'll see you boys later.
Thank you.